Alright, hey everybody, my name is Marty, and welcome back to another epic C++ adventure. This is part 36, or something like that. Part 35 in the SFML 2D platformer series. So here's the code where we had it last video. The very first thing we're going to fix is we're going to go into our code and we're going to remove this SF: style close. That's because that bit right there makes our window spawn like a little further down. And that's incredibly annoying, especially for debugging, because then you have to go, pull it up. But anyway, so now it'll spawn in the center. The only difference is now we can actually resize it. Alrighty, so last video we took a look at animation and we got prepared for it. So we switched over from using SFML vertex arrays to render our player to using the SFML pre-built sprite class. And we also fixed our importing of textures so that we're not gnawing our way through RAM like a hungry rodent, vicious for the next grain. More food, more RAM. So that's fixed, and now we can actually get animating. So the very first thing we're going to need is we're going to need a sprite sheet to animate of all the possible different frames of animation for our player. Place it in resources, and inside images, I'm just going to get the single image out of here. Just going to flick that out of here. That can go to the home folder. So now instead of X or Warrior 1 being just a single image, it will now be a whole sprite sheet. So the sprite sheet contains two different animation sets. The first one is a walk cycle, and then the second one is just an idle cycle. I typically like to have a little folder inside the images folder, and I call it dev. This is where I actually work on the animation sets. And then I have a LibreSprite project file, and then I can actually edit each different frame of animation and see how it looks. So this is how the walking is, pretty basic with a little walk cycle. And then we got idle, so that when he's not walking, he'll just throw his axe around a little. Alright, so that's all good. This all exports into a single sprite sheet. If you're curious about the program, this is LibreSprite, which is an open source version of ASE Sprite. ASE Sprite is available on Linux, Mac, and Windows. It just costs $15, which is why I use LibreSprite. It's free. And it actually works very fine. It's a very nice working environment. Now, something you may have noticed about the sprite sheet is that we don't exactly divide up our different sets of animation. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different frames of walking, and then 4 different frames of idling. So we want to create a loader that can load a sprite sheet regardless of how big or wide it is. So that this way we could just load this all into one long row instead of having the second row here. The only thing we'll need to know to differentiate between each different animation set, like the walking and the idling, is how many different frames of each do we have. So now if we run our code with our newly created sprite sheet, oh boy. So our player is just as dead as he was before, except it looks like it's whole morgue full of dead players. So to fix that, go into entity.hpp. The first thing we're going to do here is we shall include a new library. This will be #include vector to get our nice resizable arrays. We're going to create a std: vector. So we're going to create a dynamic array, and it's going to contain an SF: it's going to be an array of SFML int rects, and then we shall call this frames. While we're here, we might as well just throw this onto one line, so we can actually do this when we declare it, and we're going to create another vector, and this is going to be called our frame size. So this is going to be the actual individual size of the frame. Save that, and now go open up player.cpp. So in the player's constructor, go enter and go frame size.x equals. So we want to set this frame size equal to how big each individual frame we will be. And you'll notice that in the sprite sheet, there's a padding area of transparent pixels around the player, which is 48 by 48 pixels big. So the reason we have this transparent padding here is because we want to give our player room to wiggle about so that he could actually, if he wanted to attack, he could swing his sword. So we don't want to just set our canvas size to be only like this big, because then our player will never be able to swing his axe. You also notice that our player stays centered throughout the entire animations. That's because you don't want him to suddenly, in one frame of animation, be centered here, and then if he advanced forward, let's say in the idle scene, so he's idling, and then he idles here, and then suddenly he moves like this. You don't want that to happen, so keep your animations all centered. So go back to our code, and then we're going to set our frame size.x to be 48 because that's our frame's canvas, and frame size.y also equals 48. So now we know how big the frames are, but we also need to know how many frames are there on the x and y coordinates, like how many frames this way and how many frames up and down. So go back to entity.hpp. We're going to want one more vector to just store the frames amount. SFML vectors are fairly cheap to implement. It's not a huge memory cost, so don't worry about it. It's only a couple of floats that it keeps in there anyway. So I'll do frames amount, and then control save that. Go to player.cbp. We can actually figure out our frames amount, and we can set it to be a bit more automatic by going frames amount dot x equals t dot get size dot x divided by frame size dot y. And then we do the same thing for frames amount dot y equals t dot get size. So this is the actual texture, the actual sprite sheet. And that's dot y divided by frames size dot y. Why did I go dot y here? It should be dot x. Next, we're going to create a for loop to cycle through every single frame. So I'll go for and then go int y equals 0. And you're probably wondering why we're going with y instead of something like x, the more conventional way. And there is a reason for that. As long as if y is less than the frames amount dot y, we shall continue with this epic for loop. So epic. And then we'll increment y by 1 every single iteration. So the reason we're going with y first instead of by x is we want to increment through first each row, and then we want to shift our y position by 1 and then increment through the next row. Otherwise, we'd increment like this, and then we go here, tick, tick, and then we go tick, tock, and then tick, tick. Then we'll have a for loop within a for loop, so go for int x. This is called a multi-dimensional for loop. And as long as if x is less than frames amount dot x, then we shall increment x by y every single iteration. And then finally, what shall happen is we'll go sf int rect, and we're going to call it frame. Open up some parameters. The first parameter is x times frame size dot x, and then y times good old frame size, not the game size, the frame size dot y. I thought my spelling would have improved over the years of programming, but nope. So those are our first two parameters, is x and y, and then how big is each frame? Well, each frame shall be our frame size dot x and then our frame size dot y. In that line with the semicolon. So what we've just done is we've created an SFML interact object, and now we're going to push that back with frames dot push underscore back, so that we will store it inside our array of frames. So push back frame. That should load our frames. So now if we go set texture rect to apply, so set texture rect, and then we'll set it to, let's go with frames, let's go with the first frame of animation, and now it should be looking a little better. And we see we now have our first frame of animation. Our collision is now skewed. So let's just go update that a minute, shall we? So go into collide. So we'll replace this 13 with 21, as we've now added extra padding. And then on the left we have 20. Now this isn't strictly the right way of handling collision, but anyways, we will fix that later on. This is only just a temporary solution to the problem. So then y will add plus, I don't really know, so let's figure it out, because that's what we're good at doing, good at figuring stuff out. 13 down, so we'll have an offset of 13 from the top and 14 from the bottom. Y plus 13, and then y minus 14 plus size dot y. Scroll down. So now the first thing we want to replace is this 4 with 20, I do believe, and then we'll replace this 13 with a 21. Scroll down, and we'll replace this 0 here with a 13, and then we'll replace this 0 with a 14, and that should remedy the solution, I should hope, but you never know. Nope. What in tarnation? The reason it isn't working is we've got to go into main.cbp, and we scroll down to where we create our player. That will be right here. And instead, right now we're saying our size is 24 by 20 pixels. That actually needs to be replaced with 48 by 48. As you can see, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense why we're saying the size of the player is the frame size. Yeah, that definitely is not working right. What is he doing? Whoa, he just warped through. I think I got something backwards. But what we do know is for the x coordinates, the collision is still working-ish. Is it working? Yes. This means our offsets are reversed. So we got to scroll out of that, close out of that, go back to player.cbp, make this 14 a 13, and make this 13 a 14. And that should solve the jitteriness. Yes, it solves the jitteriness. Now, if we still try and jump, it'll actually work too. So we got our collision back in order. Excellent. So we just changed our offsets a little, probably figuring that changing all of our offsets throughout our entire code is kind of tedious, but like I said, we're going to update this collision system. Right now we're working on animation. Let's actually get animating. Open up player.hpp, and inside player.hpp add a new method. We're going to call this void collide. Not collide, animate. Void animate. Then go into player.cpp and let's add a definition to the declaration. So go void player and then animate. So for starters, we're just going to cycle through all the possible different frames of animation for a player just to see if we can get that far. So go into player.hpp and we're going to add a integer here. This is going to be our animation counters. Int animation counter. Control save that. While we're here, we're going to create a few more integers. We're going to create a walk frames. So this is the amount of walk frames that we have in our animation sets, and then also idle frames. So this is how we're going to tell the difference between walk frames and idle frames. And we're also going to create a walk speed and a idle speed. So this way we can set the rate of animation to differ between different sets of animation. So we can walk at a certain pace and we can also animate at a certain rate. Control save that, go into player.cpp, and we're going to initialize those right in the constructor. So we're going to go animation counter equals 0 for now. Just set that to 0. And then we're going to go walk frames. Well, we shall set that equal to 6 because we had 6 frames of walking and we had idle equals 4. Let's also set the rate of animation here. So go walk speed and set that equal to, let's go with something like 7 or so. Idle speed and set that to something like, or 9. These two numbers here are walk speed and our idle speed. You can vary around with them and fiddle with them and see how it looks. It's really all up to you. Ouch, these headphones are getting uncomfortable. My ears are begging for mercy. So I got some new headphones, and these are on-ear headphones vs over-ear headphones, and I like over-ear headphones better. I don't know how people wear them. See, because of instead of snuggling nicely and conforming around your ear, it's like, nope, I'm going slapping right in there and crushing them in. Maybe I'm just wearing them wrong. Could be. We're going to create a for loop to cycle through each different animation. So basically, we're going to create a little counter, and then we're going to increment it. If the counter hits a certain number, like say 10, then we're going to flip to the next frame of animation, kind of like the old flip book. Then we'll say if the counter hits 20 or so, then we're going to flip to the next frame of animation. So go for int I equals 0. And let's just start with walking. So as long as if I is less than the walk frames, we're going to increment I by 1. So I plus plus. It's going to be a single liner. So if you have for loops or if statements and they only have one line inside their body, you don't actually need the squirrely braces. So then we're going to perform an if statement here. So if animation counter is equal to I plus 1, and the reason we're incrementing I by 1 is because I is 0 right off the bat. And then we're going to multiply that by walk speed. And to ensure that our addition comes first, we're going to throw some parentheses around it. So yeah, the reason we go I plus 1 here is that if we didn't, we'd just be saying, well, at the first frame or the first interval, I is going to be set equal to 0. So then we're going to say if animation counter equals 0, advance to the next frame, and we won't have any elapsed time in between. So it's just going to kind of look a little weird. So that's why we go plus 1. So if this happens, then we're going to go set texture rect and then frames. And which frame? Well, in this case, we'll go with I. So whichever frame we're dealing with. And now we can go enter. So now you're probably thinking, Marty, how on earth can we have an if statement and a call to a method within a for loop that doesn't have squirrely braces? The answer to that is because this isn't actually a statement of any kind. It's more just a checker. This is actually a line of code, so it actually groups this automatically for us. If you had, however, a second if statement, then this would no longer be grouped within this for loop. So it's kind of like you can have one if statement and you can have one line of code inside a for loop that doesn't have squirrely braces. If we control save, hit F7 and run, it's not going to do anything. And that's because we got to go animation counter plus plus to increment it. So now if we run it, we'll actually be able to cycle through our frames real quick. A little problem. Scroll up into the constructor. For some reason I called it walk counter. That should be walk frames, not walk lame. Walk frames. Much better. So add a call to this method in our update method. So Right after we collide is as good as place any to do it. We'll go animate. And now we should see us briefly cycle through the walk sequence just once. And just like proposed, we have the expected results. So now we need a way to reset this counter so that we're not just stuck with the final walk frame. So scroll back down. We're going to add an if statement here. So go if animation counter equals walk frames times walk speed. Well, in that case, we're going to set our animation counter equal to 0 so that we reset it if we reach the maximum frame. So the last frame of walking. Control save. And now we should be just constantly cycling through walking, which we are. Looking pretty good. Alrighty, so our player is walking regardless of if he's moving, so we do need to fix that. So go to player.hpp. We're going to add two things here. First thing is, instead of just having an animation counter, we're going to want to separate the counters. So we're going to have a walk counter, and we're also going to have a idle counter. We're going to add two more methods here. The first one will be void walk, and the second one will be void and not animate, idle. Go into player.cbp, and now let's go add a definition to these declarations. So what we're going to do is we're going to separate our walking and our idling, player walk, and then we'll call these methods inside our animation method. So the animation method is just going to be the logic that decides if we're walking or we should be idling. It's not actually going to idle us. That's what walk and idle are for. So just copy that, paste it in there. Replace this animation counter with walk counter. Do likewise down here. This needs to be walk counter, and this needs to be a walk counter. Walk counter equals 0, and we also increment walk counter as animation counter is no more. Copy this, Control C, because we just love copy and pasting, and rename this method here to be idle. So in idle, the first thing we change is now instead of setting I equal to 0, we're going to set it equal to 1. The reason we do this is because if we just set it to equal to 0, actually start off the idle sequence as the last frame of walking. We don't want to do that, so that's why we're going to go +1, so this way it's going to start off at the first frame of idling. The next thing we do is change this I here to be idle frames. Instead of walk counter, we go idle counter, and then place this walk with idle. Why doth I be tabbed like I have done? Why did I... Okay, and now where we go is set texture rect instead of just setting it to I, because if we did that, we'd be just actually reusing only the first 4 frames of the walk sequence. We instead actually want to add I to the max number of walk frames, so that this way it sets our texture rect to be here, to be the first frame of animation, and then the second, the fourth, third, and the fourth. Just a few more idles to replace. Idle. We could probably go Control H and just auto do it, but I don't really like to do that because then it's kind of hard to see how I've exactly done that in the tutorial, so I prefer to actually do it manually, just so that you guys can follow along a little bit easier. Scroll up, and in animate, now what we want to do is just replace this with logic. So let's go if velocity.x is greater than 0, then we shall walk. If anything else besides that happens, meaning our x position is at a rest, then we shall idle. This actually should be abs. We would want the absolute value of our x position. Now to use abs with floats, you have to import a special library, and this is called #include math.h. That should pretty much cover it. The only other things we gotta do is replace this animation with walk counter equals 0 and idle counter equals 0. Alright, and let's compile and run it. Oh boy, more errors. Yay! Ed, what have you done? Edel, void player, yeah, Edel. Oh boy, okay, that should have fixed it. Hey, look at that. It's working. So, it works if we move to the left or to the right, then we animate, like we walk, even if we're airborne. Now, if we idle, what happened to the idling? The idling works, except you'll notice that when we walk and then when we idle, our axe has a pixel that's moved. Is that actually just a problem in... Oh, that's a problem in the sprite sheet. Okay, never mind. That is just... Yeah, that's not a code-related problem. There, so now our player idles when he's not doing anything, and when he's walking, he walks, except in the wrong direction if you're moving to the left. He walks backwards. He's got a serious moonwalk happening. So, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have any questions or comments, just let me know down below. Thanks for watching and subscribing, code like, and I'll see you next video. You have a good one.